girlfriend forever. Very well. First, I just want to tell you all, I am so happy to be back with my Ellicott City family. You have no idea what it was to have another family. It was wonderful, all the years. I mean, I'm 81 now, and I started in Ellicott City in February of 1996, and been here ever since. Nothing's getting me away from it. But anyway, I wanted to tell you briefly how I got started and why I got in this business. My family's all in retail, so it must be in there. But my girlfriend called me one day when I was at work. She said, Joni, do you want to go into Ellicott City with me? I want to sell my mother's some of her antiques. And I said, oh my God, I'd love to go. I haven't been to Ellicott City for years. So we went into Main Street, Ellicott City. She went into Maxine's, and I'm sure Charlene must have bought her mother's antiques. And then when she came out, we started walking up and down Main Street and looking at things and saying, ooh, I have that. Ooh, we could do this. So we went down to the Antique Depot on Maryland Avenue, and we had to really get John Loder back to give us a place. He wasn't too excited about giving us a booth. But we got a booth in the basement. We shared the rent, but we each had our own inventory numbers so that we didn't have any arguments about what went into the booth. Okay, so I was in Antique Depot for quite a long time, 1996 to 2001. And what happened was Arlene got out of it, my girlfriend Arlene Lee, and she got out of the business. And I had like, I don't know, 6 booths, 3 showcases. I mean, I could have owned the place. I mean, I had so many places. And my dear friend Sue Starr had a booth at the Antique Depot that I ended up taking over her spot because she moved up the street. Starry Night Antiques, if you remember, she opened up in the upper part of Maine, and then she moved down to that big, gorgeous store at the end of the block. Anyway, I got her booth, and I used to go and admire her stores, and she said to me one time, Joni, you have to open your own store. It'll change your mindset.
Good evening. My name is Gary Weltner, and I am a lifelong friend almost of Joni. My history with Ellicott City goes back quite a few years. Back in the 1960s, my parents used to come to Ellicott City on Sunday, and they would go to Leidig's Bakeries, as Sherry had mentioned earlier. And I could hardly wait to get that powdered donut that was filled with Bavarian cream and walk down Main Street with powdered sugar all over the front of me. But I didn't care. You know, it was worth the trip. So in 1972, the year of Agnes, just before the flood, I had befriended some antique dealers on, actually they weren't on Main Street, they were up by where, what is it, Machatan and La Palapa. It was a small building, an outbuilding at the back. And as I say, it's an elderly couple. They had probably retired and saved everything, and they were now in business. And when the flood hit, I remember going to their store and helping them dig out the mud and ironically wash some of the things in the very river that had flooded their building. So in 1976, a very fond memory was the Bicentennial Parade, and I climbed up on those large boulders. I think they're near, what is it, Ellicott City Country Store? Yeah, and I remember watching the parade from that perspective. So flash forward to about 20-some years later. I had gone and I was living abroad for 15 years. And when I came back, I had met a very fine woman who was opening a business. Her name was Susan Starr, a common friend who actually is responsible for introducing me to Joni. Now, how that happened was, apparently Joni had spoken to Sue about opening her own shop. And one day I'm in Susan Starr's shop, helping her out, and this woman with wild, white, crazy hair comes storming in. And she's jumping, literally jumping up and down and screaming. And she said, I got it, I got it, I just signed my lease for my first store.
Okay, that store was so great because it was right next door to Sue's Star Store at the end of the street. It was 8018, and it was a very small store, and my landlords were Loretta and Tim Moran, wonderful people. They were great. I was there 12 and a half years, and I want to tell you all something. I don't know how I survived down there because people would walk down Main Street, get to the traffic light at the Phoenix, and where the Forget-Me-Not factory is across the street, and they'd cross and go back up. So I was thinking I was never getting all the traffic, the foot traffic that I really needed to survive. But people like Jenny, she made an arrow and said to Joan Eaps, and she put it on the street. But I love being there. But then I had heard that the Craig Coyne building, where Sam Coyne had his jewelry store, and it was huge, was going to be for rent. And I literally ran up there and I said, Sam, do you know if anybody's going to rent this building? He said, I don't think so. I said, can you just give me the landlords' names or whatever? And he gave me Mr. Whalen and Rusty and Jennifer Johnson. And I got in touch with them, and Mr. Whalen had to come down and interview me and find out if I was going to be okay for that location. It was really something. Anyway, I got that store. It was a little under 1,000 square feet. And I looked at it and I went to myself, I'm going to probably have to rent to other dealers. It's so big. How am I ever going to put stuff all in there? No problem. I had trouble finding a place for things after I was there.
Well, moving day came, actually, and so we needed to pack up some big chandeliers and boxes of Joanie's treasures. So I remember actually walking up the street near Joe with a chandelier about this tall, and I'm trying to balance it actually, but I arrived at the front of her new shop without losing a prism. So we've unpacked everything, and I remember it took us a good month, maybe 2 months at the most, and we completely redid the store. And one evening, just before the opening, I won't call it a grand opening, but the reopening of Joanie. Joanie closed the door. We were there late, by the way, and we were exhausted. And she closed the door and she locked it. And she stood there and she looked in the window of her new shop. And she said something that has stuck with me forever. And I think I'll let her say that.
Actually, I said, I can't believe this is mine. I mean, it was huge, and I was so proud, and I was in the middle of the block, not down at the end, you know, and everything. Anyway, I want to tell you a little about the store, and then, of course, you know what happened to that one. But it was a gathering place. It had 2 levels. So the second level, we had a wicker settee and 2 chairs and a coffee table. People came and hung out. It was like the best. And our friend Sue Starr had written her first book. She lived in Maine by now. She had a bed and breakfast, and the book was all about recipes for the bed and breakfast that she bought. So we had, on Midnight Madness, we had a book signing, and we had this poster. We had the book signing. She came, and we had one of our caterers bake all the little tiny muffins from her recipes, and people came, and it was wonderful. And we honored Sue. And today, we're honoring Sue right now because she passed away June 3rd. And, but she will always be in our hearts because she had Starry Night Antiques, and she was a starry person. She was great. Okay, so that's the end of the 2016 situation because you all know the flood came and wiped us out. Yeah, I guess that was it. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, what happened next was there were a lot of news people here, a lot of people interviewing us, and all the questions, and the main question was, do you think it would be another business? I said, absolutely. They said this was a 1 in 1,000-year flood. So I found the front portion was for rent at Great Pains, where Len and Sherry Berkowitz owned the building, and they had their stained glass studio. And it was just perfect. Of course, it was down lower again, but oh well, we risked it because they said it was 1 in 1,000 years. So the best thing I have to tell you was the ribbon cutting. You can't imagine how it made me feel that people who owned businesses in town Plus, a friend of mine from way back, Senator Betty Cardin was there. Alan Kittleman, who was the executive council person. John Weinstein, who's our, I get confused, county council, whatever. And Bob Flanagan, who was the legislative representative. All these people came. And of course, Pam Long, our famous photographer from Ellicott City, she's the best. She came and did all the videos. And honestly, that was so great, so great. And then what happened then? You know again.
Well, I have to say, you can probably never really experience the type of bond that I have with Joan unless you have been through the situation that we both survived. I can say, and I'm assuming that some of you have seen some of the interviews we've done, but I can say that it truly was a near-death experience. And until you share that moment with someone, and you don't know if you're saving their life or they're saving yours, or if we're both in this together. So just as the water was rising in her very last story, there is a moment that was captured on our security cameras that really, I think, shows without words how I feel about my friend. There was a moment when I was asking Joan to remove the boot that she was wearing for a stress fracture on her foot. And as she was struggling to get it off and trying to contain her panic, I remember thinking and looking at her as she was bending over and thinking to myself, I can't believe that this is happening again to her. She put her heart and her soul, every ounce of energy went into coming back. And this was not the first time coming back. This was the second time coming back. And just like Sally, she did not throw the towel in easily. She was determined. But you know, when you keep hearing it's 1,000-year flood, I think I must be 3,000 or 4,000 years old because they're happening so often, you know. But in any case, I will always cherish the memories of the Ellicott City family, and I say it with really strong passion from my heart because there is such a thing as an extended family, and when you see people every day as you come into town and you greet them and you get your coffee at Bean Hollow or your sandwich, or you know, you start to see these people and you get to know them. You actually, it's no longer just good morning. You actually ask them how they are and you listen to them when they tell you. And that's how you establish this bond, you know, that goes just so far beyond just your genetic or your family that you can't choose. But in any case, I am so happy to know everyone here tonight and to see that you're still interested in keeping this town vibrant and alive. And I also understand that on Monday is, I believe, the official groundbreaking for the project. And I thought how fitting it is this evening to have this remembrance. So let me pass it back to Joan.
I'm just going to say one thing that I didn't say, and I want to mention it. My dear, dear friend, T. Garland over there, in 2016 was working in that bank building, and she was on the second floor, and she was barefooted. I didn't know this until she told me, but anyway, she called me and she said, JoJo, I'm calling you because I don't think I'm ever going to live. She was literally trapped in that place. And thank God Sam Coyne came with his friend. He saved T, he saved Sally, am I right? He saved Sarah from the Obladi with her dog.
That's because you called him.
Yeah, but still, and your cats, thank you. Anyway, I just want to wish everyone here good health, long and successful business if you're in business, and enjoying Ellicott City because it's just going to keep coming back and be better and better all the time. And actually, there's a famous line Gary wants to tell you, and then we're going to stop.
All of the years working with Joan, she was so hospitable when people opened the door and came business. She always greeted them. But there was one thing I kept hearing over and over again, and it is a classic. And I think maybe she should say it.
Somebody be leaving the store and they hadn't bought anything. I said, excuse me, nobody leaves my store empty-handed, and we give them out the pens. You all get them signed.
So we have pens for everyone.